On today's episode, Mike and Ryan are joined by their better halves to have a feast of beer. Cheers! Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Brewthers-In-Law podcast, where beer is thicker than water. In this podcast, join us on a journey discovering home brewing, craft beer, and more. I'm Mike. As always, I'm joined by my brother-in-law, Ryan. How you doing, Ryan? Doing great. How about you?
And we have some very special guests joining us today.
They are very special to us.
Our wives. And we have Haley and Mallory. How are you guys doing?
Doing well today.
Doing all right.
Thank you very much for joining us. Since
yes,
this is
appreciate this.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ryan, maybe this is less true for you, but for me, at least in a cooking-focused podcast, I would be heavily outclassed by Haley. So
she outclassed all of us. I feel.
I was going to say, Ryan would outclass me still. Cooking one.
Mal has baking, I have cooking.
Yeah.
So we balance each other out at least.
I do both.
I grill.
That's
There
skill.
you go.
So, I should also mention, since this is Haley's first time on the podcast, that she is, in fact, my co-brewer. So,
She is.
There's that. Ryan and I, and Haley, are amateur homebrewers excited about beer and homebrewing. On Brewthers-In-Law, we're not looking to act as authorities, but to share our experiences, good, the bad, and the ugly. And we hope you'll share with us, too, so we can all learn and grow and enjoy this wonderful hobby together. So, as we have alluded to, we're not actually going to be talking about drinking beer today, but rather cooking with it. And we're going to have quite a feast.
As an understatement.
Yeah, it is an understatement. But to start out with that, and since we sort of have the four of us all from the same family, for the first sip, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go around and have everybody talk about the favorite feast, sort of recurring feast that they look forward to every year. So we drew lots. I put in a stipulation that no one is allowed to repeat the same one. So this should get interesting since we're all part of the same family group.
Yeah.
So I believe Mallory drew lot one. So Mallory, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I got lucky. I drew lot one. So I get to talk about probably the one everyone thought of first at this table.
For us, yes.
So annually, the four of us plus Michael's brother Danny and his fiance Bryn, we all do what we call Hobbit Day. So once per year, we all get together. We watch either all three Lord of the Rings movies or all three Hobbit movies in a single day, and we eat all of the Hobbit meals. So let me see if I can do this on the spot, because I promise I know them. But breakfast, second breakfast, 11sies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper.
Nailed it.
So it's just basically a day of gorging ourselves and listening to an alarm on my ringtone. Sorry. But yeah, so that is my feast that I wanted to talk about.
Yum. I believe I drew number two.
You did.
There is a second obvious choice, and I'm going to be nice and leave it for whoever comes in at number 3 and 4. I'm going to say that for me, this doesn't necessarily occur on a day, but anytime we go over to my parents and my dad makes ribs on his Traeger grill. These are the sort of ribs that ruin all other ribs. Like, I cannot order them at restaurants anymore. I cannot, I could make, he's tried to give me the recipe multiple times because I have a Traeger that I actually inherited from him as well. And I just put my hands up and go like, no, this is your thing. I'm first of all, sounds like a lot of work because there's like,
get up at 5 a.m. to get
yeah,
started.
there's like several, it's like a 4-step process. And then also I just like that it's like his thing. He's got it down to a science, and I love coming over during the summer and mowing those. So that is mine. Ryan, I believe you pulled lucky number 3.
I did. I think I'm going to save this one because there is another one I do love, and we do it. It's actually every single year. It is Christmas Eve morning for us.
Oh,
so
interesting.
We get a wonderful breakfast that Rich, my father-in-law, your father-in-law, for the pointing to different people who you
Thank
can't
you
see.
for being so granular.
I know. He makes he does like a build your own omelet, which is just
amazing. Like he pulls all the stops out, all the meats, all the vegetables. He cooks all of it up.
It is divine.
It is. And then we also have, I can't think of the name right now.
Christmas Kringle.
Christmas Kringle. I knew it started with a K. I just couldn't figure out what it was. Christmas Kringle, which I have no idea what's in it besides almond, because that's what I taste.
Lots of
sure.
yummy.
Yeah,
and
and then like some sort of gooey deliciousness in the center. I don't know.
That's
Also
that is
almond
all
paste.
paste. And then
But
there's
isn't
like
the
a brown,
frosting
it's like a
all-
brown sugar almond frosting.
Okay.
And then
You
almonds on
made
top.
it one year, didn't you?
No,
You
I
tried. You wanted to.
I wanted to, but I did
but
not.
yeah, you did not get yourself enough time because
No,
it's like a
did
day and a
not.
half
It
long
takes
process.
hours.
Yeah. No, you're right. Actually, yeah,
So-
very underrated Christmas Eve morning. That is a phenomenal way to start to start the
Continue.
present part of the Christmas extravaganza that is the Smith family for about 5 days straight.
But yeah, I love it. It's great. It's simple, but like I said, Rich pulls out all the stops. So I clap off.
Yes. Well, Haley, I feel like you sort of don't have a choice on which one you're going to explain now. We've saved it for you.
I had a different one set up because I was figuring I'd have to go a different route, but I won't leave everyone hanging on what the other default is. And that is, we call it Christmas Eve. It's on the 23rd. And it's my uncle who is 100% Polish. So he makes us his family Polish Christmas dinner. So we have 3 types of pierogies and then their soup. Homemade.
Yes,
And their soup
homemade.
that he calls borscht, and it is a vinegar mushroom based.
Mhm.
And this year with COVID, we had to cancel the big family event. So Mike and I made the pierogies, which we appreciate him so much more now.
Oh my God. It is so much work.
We spent the whole day making pierogies, and Ryan and Mallory made the soup, and it turned out fantastic. So we still got to have our feast even in a
Smaller form.
downsized
Right.
roll.
Yeah, we got to have our feast and eat it too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has made me hungry, so I think we should transition into the main topic. And Ryan, as of the 2 main hosts, you are, I think, the superior cook. Most of us would agree. So why don't
I don't know
you
about
explain a little bit about cooking with beer?
So cooking with beer, I find it very easy to do because beers have such divine flavors to them, and it brings out not only just a flavor but like also texture. So like if you use like kind of a creamier stout, you'll get that feel out of it as well, and the flavors come through very, very well. So the main one that I used to do all the time was regular Sam Adams Boston Lager. It's a great beer to cook with. I'm not a huge fan of the beer, but like it does cook very
That
well.
makes it even better to cook with. You
Yeah.
get a variety pack and you just cook with those 3.
Yep.
And use the other 9.
And even if like going back to our misadventures, where the beer that we made that did not get carbonated because someone forgot to put priming sugar in, we still were able to use that to cook with. It's still, the flavors came out. You didn't have to worry about,
something.
yeah, you still had everything there. You just didn't have the carbonation to deal with. So it worked out very well. I love cooking with beer or with just alcohol in general. Like even whiskeys have a nice flavor to them
Yeah.
as well. And we've been watching a little bit of the Great British Bake Off.
A
and
little bit of it.
a lot of it. We're already on
Binging
season
it
3 in 1 week.
Hardcore.
But like they do the same thing where like you do a little bit of gin or almond liqueurs. A lot of liqueurs they do, which obviously you get in the flavor. But like I saw someone do gin. I've seen people do rum.
Yeah,
A lot of good flavors.
Alcohol is a
Alcohol.
really useful ingredient to cook with. Another thing that it's not that I don't cook. I tend to stay pretty simple. And I know the thing that I've used beer for a lot is to just take a nice light beer and use it as a tenderizer for meat. You know, just use that
That's
as
good.
part of the marinade before you grill something up. And I know for me that has worked out very well. I have a lot less experience trying to add flavor to dishes. So this was actually my first time ever doing something like that. Well, I kept it simple. Hopefully it worked out.
And
I had Haley's supervision.
I'm about to say, and I'm going to put Haley on the spot real quick. Because she makes, and I request this every year for my birthday, the greatest thing in the world. And I'm just going to let you describe it because it's just so great. I just describe it as greatness.
Yeah. So Ryan's birthday is in the later part of March, and he is very proud of his Irish heritage, as I'm sure has come up.
This is like 1/16 Irish.
I found out I'm more British than Irish now. I'm not as happy with this.
So every year I make him Irish car bomb cupcakes. So it's a Guinness chocolate cupcake. and then you make a chocolate ganache with Jameson whiskey in it, and then the buttercream frosting has Bailey's Irish cream mixed into it, and just it's a very decadent bite with all of the different alcohols mixed in.
And then she's also making it in macaron form as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I did make them in macarons.
There's a
last year.
macaron version that may have become the new standard.
Yes, I did.
Oh, yes, please.
All right, so let's dive into our first meal. Which
Well, let's maybe just explain the structure of the episode here.
Okay,
So
go for it,
all
yeah.
four of us have made some sort of meal. We've got two appetizers, a main course, and a dessert. Each of us picked one, and we've made something that incorporates beer into the recipe.
So
Sorry.
no, no, you're good.
Back to you.
So let's dive back. Let's dive into appetizer number 1, which is Haley.
All right, so I took it on a little bit of a different twist. We talked back and forth. I do, as we've mentioned, a lot of cooking and baking, so I've done a lot of different breads. So actually, I made a spent grain bread, so it doesn't have beer per se in it, but Mike and I brewed a couple weeks ago, and we saved the grain from after when we brewed it, and you mix that in along with some normal flour so that it's not just a big crunchy mess, and then your yeasts and all of the normal things that go into a bread, and get that all cooked up so that you have a nice spent grain bread. With the spent grain, because you cook all the sugars out into your beer, since that's what's happening when you're doing that mash step, the grain that's left over has less sugar than you would find in a normal bread, so it's actually really tasty, and then it's a little healthier for you because it has it has more protein and fiber in it with less sugar content added.
Woot.
Good, 'cause this will
You heard it
probably
here
go-
first. Beer is a superfood.
It's a
Well,
superfood.
actually, we're saying that the things left over
The
from
laftover.
beer are superfood because the beer is
Right.
the
All the bad,
unsuperness.
that's true, yeah. All the bad stuff goes into the beer, and what's left is a superfood.
All right, so you have spent grain bread, and you've made this before, and it is.
Let's
phenomenal.
cut it
I like
already.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
starving.
So yeah, this is made with the beer or the stuff from our alt beer that we made 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I get the butt end. I love that.
Yum.
Oh, still warm even.
You are a butt end.
I love the butt end. Everyone hates it, but it's like perfect for.
You're a butt end guy.
Which would you prefer? Do you want the butt end too, or do you want?
No, you're butt end.
Well, now I got to take the butt end. Oh man,
Oh,
that's
so
good.
good.
It is. When you think about it, when you look at the grains, they look super husky after they've been used. So I'm sure I'm not going to be the last of us to talk with my mouth full. It looks like it's going to be a dry mess. It is shockingly moist. This bread, she's made it before. It always stays moist for like multiple days too, which is so nice. Because like beer bread, which we thought about making instead, beer bread is amazing, but it's amazing like day one, and it dries
Okay.
out so fast.
For like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
consume fresh.
No, it's really good. Like you can definitely. It's like you're going into really like grain. Like you went to Whole Foods and got like the most healthiest bread you can get. That's what this looks like, but it tastes so much better.
Yeah, and now Haley, you found this recipe online, right? If anybody's interested in, any brewers out there interested in trying this as a way to use some of their spent grain.
Yeah, I will send Ryan the link so that he can add it up to the website. But it's a German spent grain bread. When I was looking for different recipes, it was the one that required the least very odd, obscure cooking techniques. Because some of them wanted you to like bloom stuff and it was like a 2-day process to make beer bread or to make the spent grain bread. And I was like, I don't have that much time. We have a
Feels like a
2-year-old
lot.
at home.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And I figured the Germans are very efficient and make lots of beer, so they probably had a pretty good recipe for
Like,
beer bread.
what do we do with all this
Like,
grain?
dear Lord, we're drowning in grain. All right, well, if it's all right with y'all, I would love to dip this bread in something. So can we move on to appetizer
Let's
2?
move on to appetizer
I would
2.
love
Yes.
to.
Okay, so appetizer 2 was mine. And so what I have made is a beer cheese dip. Hopefully it's still
Most
not
likely.
solidified.
No, it's good.
It's been sitting in front of us looking delicious for a while, cooling off. But
Still warm. Not hot.
But so beer cheese, any craft brewery you go to anywhere that serves food serves beer cheese dip.
Agreed.
And I think the real art, this was a fairly simple recipe. We found it online. Haley found it. give her credit, but I did make it with these hands. But so the whole thing about a good beer cheese dip, in my opinion, as you know, we tend to order the beer cheese, especially if it comes with pretzels, like wherever we go. Whenever we go to a brewery and we're getting food, I think the key is that you can get a lot of different flavors from different sorts of beer, and it's all about the pairing. You know, pairing the right cheese with the right sort of beer. So we've chosen Alaskan Amber. And we've paired it with Gruyere cheese. And so to me, I get Gruyere as kind of like it's sort of in the same realm as like a Swiss almost, but it's a lot milder and less Swissy. But it's sort of like a semi-soft white cheese. It's got really nice subtle flavor. And we thought that the kind of caramely flavors from the Alaskan Amber would pair nice with it. So here it is. Before our bread is gone, let's give ourselves a little bit some.
There's also some mozzarella mixed in to help with the texture, because mozzarella just has that really good melty cheese texture.
It is very cheese.
Yes.
Very much cheese. And so you can dip lots of things in beer cheese. Everything from, I think the recipe called for vegetables, but who does that?
Broccoli. It's like,
It had lists
broccoli
of
would be good.
vegetables or chips or pretzels. They just tried to be healthy at the beginning.
Yeah.
A bunch of silly people.
You know, it's funny. We use this Founders. So, you know, we actually used a beer mustard in this beer cheese dip. The mustard really comes through.
I was just
Yeah, it
gonna say
does.
I can taste
It really
and
does.
Ryan and I both love that Founder's mustard too. It's so good. And I can taste it really clearly
Yeah.
in this. It's really yummy.
But so I would say for me, my favorite thing to dip in beer, this bread is amazing to dip in beer cheese, and this spent grain bread is fantastic. But probably my second favorite, or favorite depending on the day, would be like a well-made fresh soft pretzel. How about you guys?
no. I mean, I could just dip my finger in this and just eat my finger off.
Ryan just eats it with a spoon.
Right.
It's noodle.
it's
It's
soup.
low carb mac and cheese.
There you go. No, it's really. This bread is so good with it too. But like, I agree. I think a good pretzel is just even a hard you just buy at a store pretzel
Yeah.
is perfect for it.
Something kind of airy to just like soak up a crap ton of cheese.
Yes.
Agreed.
How do you think for this beer cheese? How do you think crackers would have worked?
Depends on the cracker. I feel.
I feel like
Yeah.
this beer cheese is quite like thick, and I think it would break a cracker.
And the first person to make a mess is Michael.
Yeah, it's me.
No, I already got it all over my hand. I just was quiet about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm worse at hiding it.
He spilled it on his pants just like the toddler.
I'm
She dumped
learning
yogurt
from
all
her.
over herself this morning.
Oh no.
But yeah,
That sounds about right.
I could see it maybe working with something really dense like a Triscuit. But I think that, it's like beer cheese dip really works better with heartier things. I do think broccoli would be a good one if you were going to use a vegetable.
I think if you're going to do
you had
that,
to
you
make
might as well just go the whole way and make like a beer cheese soup and not get it quite as thick. Like,
Ooh, broccoli
Like
cheddar
a
Oh,
soup
beer
with beer
cheese,
cheese.
Which is-
broccoli cheddar.
Which is
Uh-huh.
That is
actually
new game.
that's a great variation to talk about using it in like a cheese soup.
Mm-hmm.
Totally changes the game.
you just cut down on the amount of flour and butter that you put into it, so you don't get that roux at the beginning when you're
Yeah.
cooking, and then you could turn it into more of a soup.
I wonder how this
Part
would
of the
actually...
reason I asked is there's a lot of cheese left, and we're gonna have to find something else to dip in it because this bread is gone.
I have another loaf of it.
Oh,
There we
there
don't
we
know
go.
how much
Oh,
we
you
want
do?
to eat.
Oh,
So, I do have one thing we could do with this as well. Just make it into straight mac and cheese.
yeah.
There you go.
So have this. You pretty much just made a roux for the most part, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just cook up some noodles, mix it all together, throw it in the oven, put a
That
little
could be
cheese
good.
on top.
Oh
melt
yeah,
it all
like
together.
an oven baked mac and
Mhm.
cheese. Oh my
Yes.
god, yeah, that would be good.
I might need this recipe, Haley, to do that.
Oh, dude, it's simple. I've got it. I'll forward
I
it to you.
forwarded it to him yesterday, so he has it.
Yeah. We sort of game planned about it, but like she's just better than me. So it was like we
admit it.
we
That's
talked
first
about
step.
it, and I was like, I'll worry about it later next week. And Haley was like, I found a recipe, and I was like, dang it.
And then because I was involved, we adjusted the recipe slightly.
Yeah. Famously incapable of following recipes. All right. Well, Ryan, what do you say we take a break here?
Yeah.
Maybe finish up these apps, and then I am excited to move on to the the Kuhn serving us the main course as well as some dessert.
I'm very excited for this.
Yeah.
The dessert's already kind of down here. I've been eyeballing it for a while.
I know. It's right
I
next
haven't
to
smelled
me.
it all
That's all
morning
I
as
can
well.
smell it,
It's
yeah.
really good. One of them broke and I tried it.
Cheater!
I was assistant chef, so I got to taste a lot of it.
We may have to make this a recurring episode every season so that this can become every...
Our recurring feast.
Right,
I
yes.
like it.
And then that will be the new feast that you choose from that happens every single year. Well,
Exactly.
someone picks Hobbit Day, someone picks
The 23rd,
Eve, and then now someone picks our feast, our beer
The
feast.
beer
Right.
day feast.
My favorite feast is the one we're about to eat.
Yes. All right, so we'll go to a quick break. We'll hear some advertisements for some other places, and we'll be back.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's Your Turn to come and join us.
Hey, this is TC,
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio
which could be you.
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
Or the demands.
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay, so head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
And we are back. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm still hungry.
It's
Those
a mini
appetizers
Hobbit
were
day, I
nice.
swear.
Those appetizers were very nice. I've got a little bit of grain saved, bread saved, just in case I need it for the main course.
Or for more beer cheese, because we
Ryan,
still have plenty.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the main course, which you made?
Yep. So the main course is actually something we both make, and it's funny because I used to make this with like shredded chicken or shredded something, and every time I made it, just wasn't there. It wasn't quite good enough. And then we went over to your guys' house, and you guys literally made the same exact thing, except you did ground meat instead of that. And I'm like, I'm in. Let's do this.
That's the thing.
And then there is one more ingredient that you guys do that we do as well. I just didn't have time to put it on there. Is chard, which is a great thing to have on there. But
You got to tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was going to say.
so what we make is chili. It is a turkey white bean chili. So it's not red. No tomatoes in this. For those who have acid reflux, cough, cough. My wife. And with the beer in it, it is literally 2 cans of Mr. Blue Sky from Griffin Claw Brewery, which is here in Michigan.
Yes.
The flavor that you get out of this is an orange and kind of coriander,
Yeah.
or should at least.
It's a whip beer, yeah. For anyone not from the Detroit area, it's kind of like it's a whip beer, so similar to like a Blue Moon or one of many other whip beers.
So I feel like it has a little bit more of a spicierness with the coriander, and then a Blue Moon is more smooth with this orange zest.
Yeah, Blue Moon's got a lot more of the citrusy thing.
Yep. So, go ahead and dive in. So this, when I was younger and made a feast for all my roommates at the time when I was living with them, I would make beer chili all the time, and like never heard a complaint, at least as far as I could tell. And that's when I used the Sam Adams itself.
Can definitely taste the Mr. Blue Sky in there. Mm-hmm.
This is good. Someone should probably talk.
I
I know, I said we're all eating.
So to kind of give this recipe away, it's literally a pound of turkey, some northern white beans, some sweet corn, a little bit of seasoning, salt, pepper, basil, stuff like that, and then literally 2 cans of beer or whatever. You can use whatever beer you want. I usually do Budweiser, honestly, when I make this for normal times, because that's usually what I have in the fridge is some kind of cheap beer, and it still turns out very well.
You put it in the crock pot for 8 hours.
Yep.
That's important.
Yes. Or you could do it quicker. We did this a little quicker because I browned the meat first and then put it all together in the crock pot and let it stew to get all the flavors to kind of merge together in there.
Yeah, we make not quite this. We don't actually use beer in ours, but ours is ready in about just over an hour.
Hour and a half to do it on the stove.
Yeah, but it's all done on the stove.
Yeah. Well, and then the chard that Ryan was talking about.
Yeah.
Usually the last step is you put some chard in and let that sit in with the mix for the last half hour, 20 minutes ish.
Maybe, yeah.
So it
Now-
gets kind of soft. Yeah.
Ryan, can you talk a little bit? Why did you choose Mr. Blue Sky specifically for this? What kind of flavors were you trying to play off each other?
I wanted the orange and coriander. I wanted that little bit of a zip to it, a little zing from the coriander. And it was when I looked at my beer fridge pretty much outside at the time, and I'm like, all right, I have a crap ton of Guinness.
Which I think could have also worked well in here.
And a red chili, it does. I've done it with a red chili with Guinness. It's very, very good. But I wasn't sure how that would work with a white chili. And then I had just a few other coffee ales and stuff like that because it's that time of season, a little colder. I like coffee ales and coffee stouts. And it works well. So I have no complaints as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's good. I do get to me it's subtle. It took me 3 or 4 sips or whatever spoonfuls to
sips because it's beer
to kind of get it, but I do get just very subtly that little hint of citrus. It's just a little brightening of the chili flavor.
Yeah, it works very well.
Hard off the intro, but my taste buds are also really sensitive right now. So.
Right. Yeah, you're out of practice with the drinking from 6 months.
Almost 8.
Almost 8. Okay.
Ryan, with the way you add the beer to this, do you presumably cook off the alcohol, or does it stay in there? Okay.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, there might be a little bit in there, but it's probably it's more close to an NA beer.
Because that's sort of one of the interesting things about cooking with alcohol is it cooks off so readily that most of the time it's not like you're making a booze. I think that those cupcakes Haley makes for you end up being a little boozy.
I do
because
feel
the
like
frosting isn't cooked,
and
right?
neither's the ganache.
And neither is the ganache.
I feel like you could get a buzz if you ate 6.
It's an extra trick if you're cooking with beer or liquor to actually get the alcohol to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it boils off or it steams out really quickly. So if you're baking,
your spoon, I'm sorry.
It's okay. If you're baking, it gets cooked out, and if you're boiling it, it gets boiled out. So you kind of have to very carefully heat it up a little bit if you don't want to lose all the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.
It's good.
And we're gonna be
nice and hearty.
I know.
We have another episode to record, so we need a nice hearty lunch.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into our dessert, which my wife made.
Yes. So what I have made is brownies. So we've talked a little. I don't cook. I mean, I sort of can, but I'm not good at it. But I'm pretty good at baking. So what I've made are Guinness brownies. So they are chocolate brownies, double chocolate brownies with some Guinness in the mixture, and they're also topped with a chocolate ganache that also has Guinness in it. Yes, Haley, the alcohol should be cooked off for this one for sure. So no worries there.
It's baby safe.
Yes, it is baby safe.
I'm assuming your listeners know that we're having a baby in a month.
Maybe.
Okay, so if anyone doesn't know, I'm about 8 months pregnant right now, so...
Context clues, I think, is there.
There's sort of a delay between when we record and when the episodes come out, so we may have a baby by the time you are listening to this.
This is true. I'm going to go ahead and snag this sucker.
Who knows?
But for the sake of recording at the moment.
At time of recording, yes, we are...
I'm going to start small, and then I can have a second one and not feel awful about it.
I like your style.
I still feel awful about it.
Smart. So, with baking, because I am not a huge baker. I hate baking because I have to follow directions completely, and I can't do that when I cook.
Not completely. Just
And if you miss
More
one
than he
thing,
does.
if you miss one thing, and this is from past experience,
those cookies.
yes,
Yeah.
those wonderful
What
cookies
was
I
it
made.
that he forgot? You forgot to put in. It was either sugar or flour.
It was
I think it was
flour.
flour.
Flour, yeah.
I'd like to clarify that not entirely following directions and skipping an ingredient are not the same thing.
I like to think it is, but oh, it was so good. I got full mouth now talking. No, I know a lot of people do baking, and with alcohol and everything. Beer is pretty common, and just rum I think is another really common one as well. From what I know, rum cakes. I'm assuming has rum in it.
Yeah, you don't really bake with that. You soak it afterwards.
That's even better.
Rum,
That'll get you drunk.
rum cakes are very alcoholic.
Not baby safe.
Not baby safe. But great job. This is
Yeah.
very rich.
These are nice.
You do get a little bit. I get a little bit of Guinness, but like I said earlier, like with some things, you get the feel of it. Guinness is so light that I feel like this has made it so much lighter.
Yeah, I think for me, so one thing that I'll say is that we talked about it earlier because these were out on the countertop when we arrived, so it wasn't exactly a surprise or anything, but I often find brownies can be a little dry if you don't do something to make them less dry. And one, using the frosting, but two, I think just using the beer does something, because this is either that or you're just an excellent baker.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
No, well, the reason why I added, obviously the reason why I added Guinness is because the theme of today's beer. But the reason why I wanted to add Guinness to the brownie, I usually add coffee to the mixture, actually.
Ooh.
Like
I'm going to have to try that too to compare.
Yeah,
Did you make a comparison, Beth?
No, I did put a little bit of espresso powder in these just because I can't not put coffee in them. Just because I think it brings out the chocolate a lot.
Yeah, no, agreed.
But
Fantastic.
I thought that the Guinness,
Here.
right, that the stout would kind of do that same sort of vibe. I would like to actually maybe try it with a coffee stout next time and see if that.
I would say this.
Changes.
I am currently drinking. I'm a little classier here. My Pabst Blue Ribbon hard cold brew.
Yeah,
And
Ryan
I feel like this
served-
would be a really good one.
Ryan served me a nice, beautiful cream ale from a local brewery and then got himself a Pabst Blue Ribbon coffee
It's
beer.
coffee. I wanted a little caffeine.
You already had 2 coffees today. You can't.
That's true,
begrudge
yeah.
him his
Yeah, I'm already
caffeine.
bouncing
So
off the
had
walls.
Ryan.
I need
I'm
some
about to say, this would
depressants
be
to pull
3,
me back
actually,
down.
for me.
So another thing, like Mallory, you sort of brought up, I think this is almost like a reverse chocolate coffee stout, because a lot of people start with a stout when they're brewing and they go, ooh, you know what? This already sort of has like this roasty, people will often say that roasted malts can take on chocolate and coffee characters. And so people will sort of double down on that by adding cacao nibs or coffee to stouts because they're complementary flavors. You sort of flipped that on its head and went, I'm making a chocolate dessert. And so what goes well with that? Well, I'm going to add coffee flavors and then stout flavors. And I really do think that that's sort of less, like more beery roastiness that comes with a Guinness does really kind of round out the flavor of this brownie really nicely.
Yay! Yeah, it came out really well. And another thing, like we were talking earlier, I make the Guinness cupcakes that are also chocolate. So adding like a stout to a chocolate just really helps to richen the flavors. So you don't have to add in a bunch of extra chocolate and things like that to get that extra richness. And it also gives it a little more creaminess without adding all of that milk to do it.
You take that chocolate and you give it 1,000 shares of GameStop stock. That's not going to age well, that joke. People are going to have to look that up.
I will say probably Guinness, I mean, it is one of my favorite beers, but this is another reason why it's up there for me, is that it's great to cook with. You, like we're all saying, like, you get that creaminess, you get the flavor with it as well. It balances out a lot of flavors. And there's a part of me, and I know you're gonna give me this look, that they would do Guinness and try and do flavors with it. I know they never will, but
you could.
I mean, I could, but I need to get the nitro parts.
Well, we did test out in an earlier episode that little plunger thing. It worked out pretty well.
But like, because of that style, that Irish dry stout, I believe is what the style is.
Yep.
it's really, really good. I feel like if you just put like maybe a little bit of coffee, a little bit of chocolate, it will just amplify those flavors, just like it is right here.
It would be interesting. We are actually sort of ramping up to make a dry Irish stout soon. This is going to be the next brew that Haley and I make. And I've thought about that too. I don't really. We're starting with what is basically a Guinness clone recipe. But I've thought about it now.
The hops and a couple things.
Yeah. We made some adjustments, but in terms of the malt bill, it's the big three, like the base malt, flaked barley, and then the roasted barley is where the color and the roastiness comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought about that, like, depending on how we like it, I wouldn't necessarily want to add actual chocolate or coffee to it, but it might be interesting to add some other roasted malts that have more, like a chocolate malt, or some of like the deeply roasted malts that have a bit of that coffee flavor. And just to, maybe not move it too far away, but just to like add a little bit of something to differentiate it a little bit. But we both love Guinness, so I think that just starting with trying to get close to there is a good starting place for us. And then we'll see.
And then maybe next time you could do, like we talked about, doing a beer and then splitting it up into different ones and maybe doing different profiles.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we make it again, we'll just give you a gallon and go, here, adulterate this with whatever you want.
Well, I know here again, local, but like Atwater or I don't know if they did it this year. They did it last year or the year before, where they took their vanilla Java Porter and then they made like a raspberry version.
Oh, yeah.
Or a chocolate version. And then I think they did like 3 or 4 all together.
I don't remember what they were, but I remember.
And they did really good. I think there's a ton of breweries that decided to do it all in one year, because Rochester Mills did the same thing with their stout.
That was kind of hot for a while, just like taking a stout and trying splitting it up into a bunch of different.
Yeah.
Griffin Claw actually was doing something like that. I was just there last week, and they have, I think, some kind of imperial stout that they have like 4 or 5 different versions of it with a bunch of different things added to it. So it is, like stout, because it's so rich to begin with. I think it's a nice beer to play with these flavors.
Yeah, it's so mellow, especially with the Guinness. If you do something like that, it's such a mellow flavor, but you still get a lot out of it.
So to turn back to our sort of the thesis of our episode of using beer in food, Ryan, would you say that Guinness is probably your favorite beer to use in cooking?
Guinness is definitely number 1 for me.
Okay.
It's versatile. Like I said, I used to use it in chili. You can use it in bacon, obviously. It's very, very good.
Mal and Haley, do you guys have specific go-tos that you like to use, or does it depend on the recipe?
This was the first time I've ever baked with beer, and I thought Guinness worked out fine. When I make the chili that we're having today, I will use Budweiser, though. Like, I know you said you use Budweiser, too. Budweiser's probably my favorite for, like, cooking. Just, A, because it's pretty versatile. You can use it for a lot of different things. And B, because I don't feel bad wasting money.
And that's how I felt with Sam Adams. So
I could sort of see Ryan doing that, like pouring a Guinness into something he's cooking with and just going, R.I.P. little buddy.
Well, see, I know
you will be
I don't
missed.
always use the whole, because I have the big boy cans. So it's like a little more, like just a perfect pint, or in which most pint glasses aren't actually pints.
Yeah, that's true. I do have to say that, like, only using about half of my Alaskan Amber felt good to be able to sip on it afterwards.
Yeah, so you just sip on it as you cook it.
Yeah.
It's simple.
How about you, Haley?
Oh, yeah.
I like to switch around. It depends on what I'm cooking. Again, like baking chocolatey things, Guinness is great for it. Beer bread, I use weird beers that got left at our house.
Same thing, like beers that have been in for a year, where we're like, well, we're not going to drink this. What are we possibly going to do with it?
Yeah, or stuff that's about to expire, things along those lines. Because really, for the beer bread, you're mostly looking for the leftover yeasts in the beer, because you don't add a yeast to a beer bread. Right. So it rises because of the yeasts in the beer. So as long as it hasn't gone completely flat and worthless, most of them taste pretty similar in the beer bread. And then otherwise, it really depends on the recipe, like the beer cheese, pairing it with the right type of beer. So I like to play around. I never like to repeat anything. So I pretty much I mix it up as I'm going and try new things.
We should get a poster of that in our kitchen somewhere.
Never repeat.
Never the same recipe twice.
Yeah, I have a bad habit. I'll make something and Mike goes, "This is so good. You should write it down." And I go, "Yeah."
I don't remember what I did.
I might remember half of it.
Well, actually, the going back to the Hobbit Day, like you guys do the Shire Pie, and you guys do wine with it. I've actually switched up and done Guinness with that, and it turns out very,
I can
very
see
good.
that being good.
Which
Different but good.
Yeah, it's a meat pie, yeah.
I changed that out to red wine because it's supposed to be white wine,
Yes.
but I use lamb instead of sausage.
Okay.
So I switched to a red wine because that gives you some of the richness that you lose by going to a less fatty meat.
Okay. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think I do.
So I could
just
see
turkey.
beer helping with
Yeah.
that too, where you would get a little bit more richness
Yeah.
back from it versus like if you have something really fatty like a sausage, something clean
Well, I
like a
do-
white wine helps with it.
Well, I do the ground turkey with it still, because that's what we usually have, and then I throw in the Guinness. Not the whole can, and then I just sip the rest. So it's perfect. I mean,
The cook's portion. We need that.
and Mike, I know you don't do much, but like you said, you marinated. Though.
I honestly, when you're marinating, light beer works best.
Okay.
So I would sort of be in line with Mallory. Normally I just occasionally, particularly after like sort of New Year's season, we end up with a large amount of Labatt Blue Light or something. That's a Canadian beer for anyone that doesn't live near Canada. You probably don't know what that is, but we always end up with something like that, or Busch Light or whatever, and like nothing to do with it because unless we're getting rowdy, like I won't just drink one of those just around the house. There's
Right.
it's normally it's the right
It's a drinking game.
it's a
beer.
situational beer, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Bonfire with the neighbors, maybe.
so yeah. So keeping that stuff around for grilling, I think works really well. I do really like we used an amber ale today. I think that the flavor of amber ale, you can, if you sort of tailor your recipe to it, it can add a lot to beer or to recipes. So that's probably what I would say. I thought that the Alaskan worked out quite nicely.
No, it definitely
agreed.
did. Yeah.
That
Super
sort of
yummy.
that caramel profile can
Mhm.
complement a lot of things if you use it right.
Well, I think that's our feast. I mean, we still got more to eat after we're done recording, obviously, but I think we'll be.
Yeah, the real challenge is finishing the food, not the podcast.
It's true.
All right, well, if you would like to find our podcast, there are a couple places you can do that. We have a website that's Brewthers-In-Law.com, all one word. And you can also find us on Twitter at Brewthers-In-Law, again, all one word.
I think we're on Instagram too. I think
You
I think,
are.
I think our overlord over us made an Instagram for us, so we're good on that.
You're on there. I follow you. It's also at Brewthers-In-Law.
Supreme Leader Dave.
Supreme Leader Dave.
Well, that's fantastic. I don't know a lot about that. Haley and I aren't really social media people, so if you want to get a hold of us, those are all great places.
Yes.
But Ryan and Mallory, where else can people find you guys online?
Well, I'm on Twitter as well with just myself, and I am Rambo Kuhn. And then anything brewing related is Wise Old Owls Brew. And then I do a blog on the side just for fun. I haven't done one. I got to do one for February, as we're in February right now.
Yeah, get on
and
it.
that is hotbrewandblog.com. And Mallory, where are you at? You're all over the place too, aren't you?
Oh my gosh, I'm all over social media. It's a problem. So I actually also am a writer, and I actually have my first fantasy novel coming out in September. It's called Among Thieves. So I am on all of the social medias because of that. So I'm mostly on, yeah, right. I'm mostly on Twitter. So that's at MJ_Kuhn, Kuhn. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and as of this week, I'm channeling my inner Gen Z. You can also find me on TikTok.
Whoa.
I know.
What is that?
I feel really old. I'm having trouble with it. But I'm at...
Is that like Napster?
Right. I'm at MJ Kuhn Books, all one word, on all three of those platforms. And then also just my website, which is mjkuhn.com.
Yes. And I'll just throw out there that Haley and I got to beta read this particular book, and it is wonderful. We have already pre-ordered our copies because you can pre-order a copy.
Yes.
True, yeah, you can pre-order the links on my website. So.
Or on Amazon.
Or on Amazon, or
straight on
Barnes &
Amazon.
Noble, wherever books are sold, yeah.
Well, I think with that, I mean, like with any of those spots, you can let us know like what cool meals you guys do. If you guys have a crazy feast.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, if
what
anybody
crazy
has,
feast
because
you
we
guys
will
have.
steal the crap out of it. If
Yeah,
it's a
well,
good
you know
idea.
everyone's gonna steal
Our
Hobbit
family
thing now.
loves like food-centered themed days.
Yes. And then any meals that you like to make as well. Like, let us know what recipe you have. You don't have to give the full thing away.
Or
but
you can.
Or you can. We'll gladly make it. You can let us know on any of those, any of our sites at Brewthers-In-Law on Twitter or at brewthers-inlaw.com. I think that's it. I think we got a lot of food to eat. So with that, cheers.
So many more clinks.